Good morning, everyone, and oops, let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. There we go. Okay, today we're going to have a little bit of fun. We've been coding day after day and everything, and so today I thought, let's jump in some Blender, play around with some objects, play around with some stuff. I'll show you how you can put them into scenes, and we'll just see what we do. Take a little time and have some fun. When I first, earlier on, a friend of mine a while back, a couple years ago, gave me a book, Snow Crash, and if you haven't read it, it's awesome. But I just want to say that at the beginning of the book, one of the things that they do throughout the book, but they talk about a place that they created as part of the 3D internet, and it was a well, they didn't call it 3D internet, but online. They called it I guess a dome kind of thing and stuff. So as I was reading the book, I kept on having this idea, this dome place or something like that, where people can hang out and different developers can come. They kind of had some different sections inside, like one for hardcore programmers, one for graphics artists, a little section for animators, and it was a place that everybody could go, contribute a little bit of coding if they wanted to do something. In the book, they tended to, oh yeah, we can have battles on the main floor and all kinds of different stuff. But in this case, I'm just trying to make it a hangout and place where, let's say you went in there and you had some coding questions or something like that, you might run into somebody that you know and ask questions, and we could post things in there. We'll make it what it's going to be later on, but I just thought I'd get started and see if we can't create something of that nature and of that idea. So, started the day off without even some in my cup. Okay, but jumping in, let's see what we can do. So today we're going to be playing around with Blender, and like I said, I'm not a pro at Blender. I've created a handful of things. I hack my way through. I search a bunch and I figure out how to do things. So I have been able to, hi Leo, I have been able to go in and do different stuff and figure it out as I go. But here's the start that I did. I created a dome. Oh, thank you. I created a half dome, squished it, and then I actually did it in a couple different layers so that we actually have, it's kind of like having, well, here, oops, okay. It's kind of like having a, yeah, come on, fly mode. There we go. Okay, so it's kind of like having a wireframe over the top of a glass dome, and then a second wireframe on the inside of a different color, just or texture and color, or not texture but color, just so that it has like a different shade underneath where like the dome itself is shading it. So as you can see, the outside is very brilliantly white, and the inside here is actually more of a gray, and that gives us kind of the cool effect that we wanted. So that kind of creates a structured dome looking piece, and underneath it so far all I've done is create kind of a wall around it. Gonna play around with that section, see what we can do, and see if we can't make it more of what we want it to be. I'm going to switch over here to the solid mode just so you can kind of see that's what it's doing. So we have the dome on top, and then we have the solid block underneath of wall. This wall right now is only, it's only a little bit thick. We didn't make it like incredibly thick or anything. I know, looking around inside it's kind of deceiving because of the lighting, but yeah, here's where we have it. And one of the things I'm going to do is, okay, if I push number 1, then I know I'm in front of the object, and we can kind of figure out which direction switch here. Turn that off. Get zoomed in, kind of center it on my screen a little bit. And from the looks of it, the true center is going to be somewhere over here on the page. I want to kind of build this out over here and make it like an entrance type area. So let's start with that. First thing I'm going to do, if you click tab, something, there's a place in here. Let me check my code. I'm going to find a place where if I hit keystrokes, then you can see what they are. Let me just do a quick search and find out. Actually, I think it was a plugin that enabled it. I set it up, I put it in here, and let's go to user preferences, bring them on the screen here, editing, add-ons, system. Okay, let me do a quick search. Gotta do a quick search and find out. Okay, screencast keys. Turn off caps, jeez. I feel like I'm shouting. I got the caps lock on. Not a good idea. Okay, so go for all. And screencast keys. There it is. Let's enable that plugin. Save your settings. Do I have to restart to make it work? Okay, I'm not seeing what I'm pushing, that's for sure. Nope, hang on. File save, let me leave it and come back into it. We're getting this set up so everybody can see it. We'll get it going here. Let's see, did that force it to... Nope, that did not. Okay, user preferences. We got the screencast keys. Okay, wait a minute. Download it, add-ons. Properties, region N. 3D view, hang on, 3D view. Properties, region N. Ah, that's where we did it before. See, I knew I'd done this stuff before, it's been a little while, so you'll have to excuse me for... there we go, yay, now you got my mouse buttons. Every time I click something, you'll be able to see what I did. If I come in here and do a keystrokes, you'll see what I do. Okay, there we go. That's better. Just wanted to make sure you guys can see what I do and how and what we're working with in here. I'm going to select this object. We're going to click Tab, and okay, I don't even have to tell you now that I have just shown you what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Whoops. Get back onto the page. And freeform. This gets me a little bit closer. And I'm looking directly down the z-axis, which is fine. And it appears that I have two sections here that make this up the front end of the building. So I am going to do this a certain way. We've already clicked on one section. Let's go to, get my tools here. Okay, if I click Tab, now I'm working in the particular side. I don't want to grab a side. I want to grab the points of a side. Let me get a little bit closer here. Need to see what's going on. I created a little section here, and I probably, I'm going to see if it remembers my Control Z from the last episode. Nah, it doesn't. Okay, fine. Okay. Gotta do what you gotta do. First thing I'm going to do is get it where we can see these two center sections. Let's grab, by this line, let's grab this one and this one. And I'm going to grab that little, oops, missed it. Grab the little piece below it too. I'm going to grab this center one too, just because. Let's undo that one. Let's get that one and that one. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude You know what? Actually, there's an easier way to do this. Let me think about this. Let's go with... Oh, it's not... I'm getting used to this again, so you'll have to forgive me for bouncing around a little bit at first. Once I get going, there's no stopping. I don't have some of these set up the way I usually do. Okay, we're on 3D cursor, which is fine. Fine there. Why is it... Okay. Cursor to center. I want to grab this box and this box, and I'm going to extrude on the Z-axis, which, oh, that's actually not right. Why is it not catching the Z part of that? Okay, let's just do it this way. I don't need to be all that, I know. And we're going to type in 10. That gives us a set amount. And this is going to be our entry point. And what I'm going to do is I have this box. Okay, there's a button down here. Where'd it go? Where I don't want to see through things at the time. I think it's because I'm looking in... Oh, it's because I'm in the wire mesh mode. There we go. Now I'm only seeing one side of it. And there's the button I was looking for where I can peek through or not. Okay, I'm getting used to it. This one and this one. What I'm going to do is... The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to collapse this by... I think it's Control-M. Now, let me try it again. Alt-M. Alt-M at last, and then this one to here. Alt-M at last. I'm making a flat face on the front of this, and if you go up to the top of it here, you're going to see where it did a little extra thing up here. We're going to... A little cheating method I found was you can grab a hold of that line and mesh split it, edges, subdivide, and now we've created another point in the center of it. I'm going to grab that and put it right there. Alt-M at last, and we got rid of that section there, and I'm going to do the same thing underneath because I know I've done this in a couple places. I also had that little section on the bottom that is still lingering with me here, I think. Yes, we did. Okay, so let's first go underneath here. I don't even think we need something underneath here, but I just wanted to work with this. Okay, first thing, kill this line by... The easiest way I ever found to do this was if you take the edge and you subdivide it, it gives it a point in the center. You grab the point in the center, and then we merge it with a point that's out of the way, and what happens is we've killed that. I know there's ways of taking the two pieces, the two faces, and telling them to, you know, what do you call it now? It is... You can tell them to, I'll give you the exact word here, solidify, and it'll automatically bring them together. But just managing the points that I'm working with, for some reason, it just seems like this way works better for me. So whatever works best for you, use it. I wanted to give it this face too, so we're going to catch up on our... Okay, we have this face here and this face here, and they didn't expand with the rest of that stuff, so I'm going to kind of copy some steps. Extrude 10 gets it back out here where everything else was, and did it or did it not just do what I think it did? It came out on an angle. I need to be able to see where it's going to land here. Let's go up a little bit higher. I want to make sure it's not going to end up where we don't want it. So extrude, and it is the z-axis? No. Okay, we locked it into y direction, and we're going to make it a 10, negative 10. And now that puts it right at where we think we are, which is, and we'll do a little bit of cleanup here, but overall that's going to get us where we want to be. And I'm going to go here, get that point, and I'm going to merge it with this one. I'm going to get that point, and I'm going to merge it with this one. And that should have collapsed our point in the front. And I think the other one, when I sized it, I think I was off, because notice how the other pieces, there's something coming down here that it grabbed. I don't know what that is. It's like it grabbed it and moved it up on me. Because that one is correct. Or am I just seeing a weird optical illusion here? Because when I go from here, now it is sticking down farther than the rest of that. So I don't know what that is. Okay, first thing, oops, put my, that's one thing I do accidentally in here more often than not. When I want something to stay in the center of its movement, I tend to bounce it around. You know what, I'm going to back up a couple things here. That's what I like, having a nice cached area where we can back things up. I'm doing this for a reason. Okay. I'm going to take this whole thing and I'm going to delete it, because I've got other things I've done with it that I didn't like what I've done with it. And so I'd rather actually create a new object. I already was dividing it up and doing different things with it, and technically that's not the way it needs to be. So I'm going to do this correct the first time and see if we can't get it in place. So first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get where I can see it a little bit better. Go out this way a little bit and add mesh, and it's going to be a cylinder. I'm going to give it 36 vertices, because that's what I tested out already. I already knew that was going to work. We want it to be 100 radius, which makes it all the way out there. The depth is going to be, let's go with 20. I think that's going to be too tall. That's bigger than I originally did it, but yeah, I like big. Okay, that's going to work. And then we're going to offset it. This is where we get a little tricky with it, but we're going to offset it by the y-axis to a minus 9.5. And did I go the wrong direction? Yes, I went the wrong direction. We're going to go the other direction with it. So I don't want to go higher, I want to go lower. So let's go 9.5. Oh, Z direction, sorry. That's why it was looking so weird. We're going to go negative 9.5. And now it lowered down, so it's right on, it's a little overlapping, but not completely. Let's go just a little bit bigger, which literally we don't need a lot. 100.1. Let's go, I think it's 100.4. There we go. I don't want anything sticking out past the circle, so I'm just making the adjustment so that it sits on the outside of it, because when we tell it to solidify, what's going to happen is it's going to actually pull it inside a little direction for us. Okay, so this gives us the basis of what we want, and I'm going to click add. I mean, not add, sorry. That's what we're going to do with that. And if you look over here, we have all those distances, all those things, object, transform, and we're going to say rotation and scale. Whoops. Object, apply, rotation and scale. That's what I meant to do. And object, apply, location. Now it's transformed, it's where it belongs. These, I believe, are all transformed. If you don't transform things, what happens is they actually, when you export them to Babylon, they end up being in different places than you thought they were. They'll also be different sizes. Same thing goes for whenever we're working with avatars. Okay, now with this done, I'm just going to kind of recenter it on the screen, kind of get some orientation going here. By pushing 1 on the keyboard, it basically sets me where I'm directly in front of the object that I'm creating. That way I know which side is kind of like the face. It doesn't have to be that side, but it's awfully nice if it is. Okay, with this section in place, what I want to do is I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to edit it, and we're going to make this side kind of an entrance into the place. But I just want to enhance it a little bit. I don't need to go real crazy with it or anything. So we have E, and let's see, it would be Z direction or Z up. Z is up and down. So let me do this right. It would be E, Y. And now I can pull it forward or backwards, and it only goes in the one direction, which is what I want. Notice in the bottom left corner of my screen, that's where it's actually telling me how far it's gone. So if I only want it to go a little ways, I can go like, 5, or if I back that up, I can do a -5, which brings it out. That may be enough. I don't need a lot. I did it 10 last time, but I think I want it to go about 5. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to take these points and clean up like I did before. The reason I started again was because I had made a circular loop around the top. I had also applied a solidify function to it, and I decided I wanted to work with the raw cylinder first, get it to where I want, then solidify the walls that I want to solidify. That way we don't double up the work on having to move 2 points every time I do 1 point. It's best to make the outside look the way you want it to, and then jump to the inside. So in this case, we're going to do Alt-M at the last point. And if I look down a little bit, we take this point, move it over here, and Alt-M at the last. Then if I switch to my line mode, my segment, I can take that segment there, mesh, and basically what this piece is doing is it's breaking it, it's subdividing it so that it gains a point in the center. And once I do the point in the center, I can grab that point and I can bend it around, so that it follows this lead of where this other piece is already at. So by Alt-M and then last, I can actually get rid of the points that were on the top that divided that up. Which comes in handy when you're doing the texturing, I found. Some other people may look at that and go, what did you do and why did you do that? Because here I've got a point there. It ends up being a 5-point object on the bottom. And yeah, there's mixed emotions about doing that. Some people like every single thing that you do to be 4 points. It's doable. It's doable. If you decide you want to go that route, there's another way to cut that too. The idea was I wanted to create this flat line across the top so that this becomes a flat plane. That was my whole purpose in the way I did it. This bottom part isn't going to matter all that much because it's actually going to be up against the ground. So what I'm doing right now is kind of a moot point, but we'll go through the practice just so we track different things we've done and we can make it real clean design as we go. but Alt-M at last. Okay, so we're actually going to be getting rid of the bottom of it at some point because I'll create an actual flooring or whatever I want to do, a walkway or something that leads into this building, and we're not going to need pieces that are going to face the ground anyway, so we can get rid of those faces and kind of clean up what we're doing. Okay, otherwise, this piece right now that I've done basically allows me to have an entrance. I can do some pretty cool stuff with it, and that kind of gives me a little bit of a working model here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two front corners only, and I'm going to let's see, GZ, and that brings it down, and I'm going to come down about a negative 2. Then I'm going to take this, and this, and I don't know, grab the 4 points, and I'm going to first of all move my cursor, snap cursor to selected, which puts it in the very center, and now I'm going to size the x-axis, so S and X, and now I'm going to shrink that direction a little bit so that it just kind of gives us a nice cool entryway, but we were able to mold it out of the piece that we already had there. Okay, and I'm going to give it, let's see, looks like maybe 0.7, 0.8, 0.75, where's 0.7 now? 0.72, 0.75. I kind of like using round numbers because then when I'm moving something else, it seems like I can redo them and make it work again a second time if necessary. If I always knew I rounded the number, then I have at least some rough guess at what I set it for before. Never know when I'm going to use that bit of information. Okay, we have this piece in here. It gives us kind of a different shape for the front of the building. That's where we're going to attach the piece. Okay, so next, what I want to do is I'm going to take this section in here, and we're going to go to this mode, and let me unselect anything, and Control R lets me put in a, let's see, come on, there it is. We can put in some dividers, and I'm going to split this about, let's see what my numbers look like, 0.75 on one side, and then I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to go this side, negative 0.75, and now, let's see, is it time to split it that way? And we're going to put this one up around there, which is going to give us a little bit of a dynamic up near the top of the place. Let's see, we have, okay, negative 0.8 works for me. And that's going to actually frame out our door so that we have something to work with. Just thinking ahead, I may want to go a little bit more, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big awning on here where you have to walk inside and it's an awning, and I don't want to clip this corner with the awning, so we're going to make sure the awning has enough space to go beyond that. So I just kind of undid that. I'm going to go, we're going to make it a tall building. This is going to be a big entrance, so I think I can go about there, which is negative 0.35. That'll work better. Okay, that gives me a little bit of room to work. Now what I'll do, and I'm going to take this face and I'm actually going to delete the face, only faces, and that's going to be where we're going to have the entrance into the building when we get done with everything else. So let's see where we're going to be doing here. As you can see, it's starting to take a little bit of shape. We're going to have some massive entrance back here. And it has like a 36-sided building in here. And we'll worry about the inside of the building afterwards. Let's continue to build on the outside of the building. There's going to be some things we'll do for in there. I kind of want to... I'm thinking I want to texture it and I want to drop it in a scene just so that we have some reference to what it's going to look like and compared to our avatar. And then we'll build some more and we'll update it and we'll keep on doing a number of pieces that way. So I'm going to save this first, and I already know this is going to have basically a color texture on it. It's not going to need anything else at the moment. The lighting wise it's going to be kind of strange at the moment, but that's going to be okay. Let's take a look at it and export it and see what we're dealing with, and then we'll worry about what it does next. The cylinder, let me just look at the way I have this. The cylinder, I'm going to name it outer walls. I'm going to get rid of the space. I don't like spaces in my names. So we have outer walls, we have, let me scoot this down, we need to be able to see what we have here. We have outer walls, we have a lamp, we have the dome. Just thinking of how I want to do this. I'm going to take the outer walls and I'm going to basically move it underneath the drone to set the parent so that it's all part of the dome object. It's going to be including the outer walls and stuff. That just kind of cleans it up, makes it a nice little place. We have everything transformed. That's a good sign. I'll save. The other part is there are some settings that we use for Babylon. And when you load the Babylon exporter, then you get a couple extra options in a couple of these pieces. One of them is on this tab. Down near the bottom we have the Babylon. We're going to basically make sure it sets write manifest file because Babylon uses it. It's not a big deal at this point because we don't have any images or anything else. So. But that will help us work this through. Okay, we don't have to worry about sounds, UVs, all those other goodies. We'll get into texturing and doing different materials later on and stuff, but I'd like to see what this does. So we're going to say file. Okay, we already said file save. We're going to export, and we now have Babylon version right here. I'm putting it in that folder. That's what I want. Warning, I expected a warning. It's almost like if you ever pull this off without a warning, then you just weren't doing anything with it yet. Let me get to that folder. And Blender Club. Okay, so in here, just so you can see what we're dealing with, the warning that it always does is materials, no materials have been assigned. Okay, we know. We haven't put any materials on at this point in time, and it's okay. We're going to be doing that, but that's a kind of a null point. See how it created the files. First we have the Club Babylon. Then we have the manifest. What we're working with is our blend files. So this is our current actions, and this is our, I think it's the cue for the undo and everything, but either way, those are part of Blender. And then we have the log that came out of Blender. So without our materials, the only thing we actually have is the Babylon file and the manifest file. So when I bring up my website, and what I have is I've loaded Babylon, I've selected a building, so we actually have a building loaded. It's just called WalkTheWeb Club. There is nothing in this scene yet. Mold count, it's a reference point. I currently don't have it subtracting your avatars that are in there, so you're going to see the 16 molds that are part of my avatar as the mold count for the moment. Later on we'll do something with that and you won't be catching those pieces. But for now we're going to leave it in place. I'm going to edit my building, add WalkTheWeb object, and we have a Babylon file. This is what I want to put in here. I'm going to start with position 0, 0, because I want to know where the center of my building is. And okay, I'll drop it to 0, even though that's probably going to put it half in the ground. No, we're fine. Okay, and the other part is I can rotate a little bit here and get where I'm actually facing that piece. Next is select 3D object. In here, I have a list of different 3D objects that I've uploaded, but all you have to do is upload primary 3D file. And it popped up on my other screen. Let me bring it across for you. And I go to wherever it is I have, I dig deep and find the path all the way to my files. Blender, okay. Yeah, I made this about 20-30 levels deep, right? Okay, here we go. This is the file I have. All I have to do is grab the main Blender, our Babylon file, and click open, and it uploads it, and it puts it here. Then if I say edit, now I have the option of adding additional files to it. So if I had images attached to it or anything else, I can upload them using this level. Like here we have the manifest. I can say upload and I can put it here. Another thing I like to do just for my own sites that I create, later on I'll upload the actual Blender files so that they'll be as part of my actual site. Just makes it easier for me to reference, hey, if I built this thing and I put the Blender file with it, I don't lose track of which was the latest Blender file I worked on or whatever. Notice we also have a section for animations. If there was something where this file creates animations and something moves, then I could click on add animation, set up that segment, and tell it to actually work. So it does have that functionality built right into it. I close that off. Now all I have to do is notice it's not selected up here. All I have to click is select, and there it is. We now have the piece that we're building in our scene. The next thing I can do is I can now move it to where it's whatever direction I need it to be, face it where it's going to be just above the ground, and we get some sort of reference of where it is, how big it is. I'm going to rotate it. You know what? Actually, I'm going to leave it at 0, and I'm going to set our reference point to it instead, just so we can see where that is. Next, I'm going to run over here real quick because I want to see what scale I'm working in. And notice the very first thing is my head would hit. Okay, and don't worry, we're gonna take care of where you can't walk through things and it takes on the collisions. I'll show you where that's at too. But right now, that's the size of the building, and of course, that's not what I want to do. One thing I can do is detach my camera from my avatar. This is kind of a cool feature because now I can really see what it's doing, zoom in and out, and I can move as easy as holding down my left mouse button. I can turn and rotate and move it around the scene, but I can also move the scroll bar in and out at any direction to move me around. So it becomes very easy to navigate, look around, and see where this item is actually loading. The next thing is, let's say I decided I wanted to make it twice as big. Well, now that's my building, and it's partially underground, so we're going to fix that too. And we're going to move it up. And as easy as that, we now have the building in the scene, and I can save that 3D object, and it's here. The other part is if I connect back to my avatar, now I can walk. The thing to notice is from the inside of the walls, we did not set we didn't set them to be two-sided walls. We did not set it to be a separate piece. We didn't do anything with that yet. So we're going to get there. We just haven't done anything there yet. I haven't solidified the walls. So what's happening is the texture's on the outside of the building, and until I get it, a little bit more the way I want it, I'm just going to keep on building away at it and doing something. But I really wanted to see the size. For example, when I walk this guy up here, I want to make sure I can have some double doors, and it's tall enough that it's not anywhere near him, and I can have a lot more fun with that. I can do a lot of stuff. But right now, our main concern is the outside of the building. We're going to work on that first, and then we'll go back and we'll do the inside of the building. Okay, so another thing you can do. Notice that, okay, I said, this is an incomplete building. I haven't put textures on the walls. There's a lot more work we're going to be doing. Since this is the building that we've placed, I can go back in, I can right click it, and I'm editing it. You can actually click select and it'll take you right back to the edit objects, and you can do it that way. Or the fact that, okay, I just made it disappear. Let's not do that. Let me refresh the page. Don't know why it disappeared. I think because, well, not sure. I'll double check that in my code later on, but, oh, there's two things I'm going to do. Two pieces I'm going to do. First thing is, let's get outside the building. Let me see, where's my building? Hello, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Okay, hang on. There's two things. There's a couple things I have to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that since the building is so large, it's probably pushing the limits of where the action zone is that it's using it. So I'm going to right click it. Now I'm editing the building, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the action zone, normal, which is actually the smallest one of the bunch. So as soon as I walked away from it, it disappeared. It didn't have to be loaded. So I'm going to go to extreme zone because this is the outside of the building. If somebody's even a mile away, I want them to be able to see it. So by putting it in the extreme zone, now I won't have to worry about it disappearing when I walk too close, too far. I'm not sure if I need a refresh, but I'm going to do it anyway. The next part is I'm going to take my avatar and I'm going to back up quickly here. Get to the outside of the building. I want to find, okay, there's my front door. And I'm going to do it just because this is where I kind of want to start. I'm going to set in my starting point so that if I pop back into the scene, I regenerate in this place. To do that, objects and settings, set starting position. You move to where you want to be and you click the button. Now, every time I refresh this scene, which I can show you, every time I refresh this scene, I'll always start in this position in relationship to my building. It makes it nice where you're working on things because you can get yourself really close to where you want to be, and then you can keep regenerating in that area. And then when you're all done, you can tell it where the entry is or whatever you want to, bring people right to when they first load up your building. Okay, so we have this piece over here. The next thing is, if I go directly to Media Library and I click on 3D Objects, notice that's the quickest way back to my club. If I just click Edit, when I refresh this here and just upload a new file, it'll automatically replace any file that's already there. If you're not sure, you can always delete and then re-add it. I recommend just upload the new file because it will automatically replace it and you won't have to worry about it. So to test that and just to go through some different stuff, let's make some changes on here. The first thing is on my building that I noticed, when I'm looking at my building, notice how it rounded all of my corners. There's no sharp edges on the actual walls. I kind of wanted it to have sharp edges and have a little bit of design to it. Oops, I forgot that was left open. Let's kill that off. Okay, so we'll get back into Blender here. And one of the things I can do is I can go back to my edit mode of this. If I go to the line tool and if I select there, I think it's, I want to say, nah, that isn't it. Is it? No, that didn't do it. There's a certain key. Now that I know it was like Control or Shift or something, but when you did it, it went all the way around the tool, and you could tell it to. See, that's what happens when I don't do this very often. When I go away, do a bunch of coding, and then I come back to it. What I want is Blender shortcuts. Okay, I have a quick one. Blender shortcuts, this particular link here, useful keyboard shortcut tips. Each one of these have, for different sections, orientation, 3D view, object mode key shortcuts, 3D view, edit mode, this is what I'm looking for, edit mode, and there's one that when you select something, you can tell it to... No. Well, there's a key. I don't remember it, so we're going to do it another way. There's a key that actually lets you spin around the whole object, and it'll grab every one of the items. So you click one, you hold down some key, and when you click the next one, it'll grab all of them around the object. Well, since I'm not finding that one, we're going to do the next best thing, which is I'm going to set this where we can see through it. And if I do a C, I can actually, well, you know what? We're going to go like this. I'm going to go all of these first, and then we're going to eliminate the ones we don't want. But that's a little easier than any other method I could think of. That looks like I grabbed them all. And you know something, I can grab the bottom ones too because they're actually part of what I'm going to do anyway. Actually, I kind of want to grab... Oh, you know something, there's another little tool I can do. If I click... Okay, let me get out of this section. If I click the dome and I click H, I can hide it. And so now that the dome isn't there, now tab, and let me click all. I'm going to make these all sharp. If I click, I believe it's Control E. Nope, that ain't the one. It's Alt E, Alt E. No, not extrude. Nope, cancel that. Shift E, that's the one I want. Notice what it does. It allows me to sharpen the edges. So it's Shift E. Now that I've sharpened the edges, and I clicked A to click all, you saw it down here. Okay. Now that I've sharpened the edges, we should get the actual crimped, edges all the way around on every single thing that we've done. And that's only for this top part. Let's Alt H will nope. Let me get out of here. Let me get out of that mode. Alt H will bring back everything else so we're not hidden on anything. You can also click on these little tabs over here to unhide things. But now that I've done that, I just want to show you save, file, export as Babylon, and save the scene. It will dump it over the top of the one we've currently worked with. Now I can go to here, Media Library, 3D Objects, Edit, and Replace Files. Let's go to Babylon, Open, and it gave us the new file. It doesn't take more than a couple seconds because it's very small at this point. It may take longer if it's a bigger file later on. And now if I Control F5 to reload my scene, let's see if that's enough. If not, I can always dump the cache in the browser. Yeah, I kind of did it. Yeah, whoops. You can see that it has become a little sharper on those edges. We can kind of make them out. It's not rounded. You can see how on the edge here it's actually straight up and down. So it gave it a little bit more definition to them. When I add the texture, you're going to really be able to see it because between the lighting and the texture, it'll show you that they're actually sharp. But that really did make a difference on making it either rounded, the corners of the building, or flat all the way to the ground and everything. Then let's see, what else are we going to do with this thing? The next piece is we're going to want some sort of ground underneath it. So let's see what we can do about that. I'm just trying to put in some of the places here, get some of the pieces going, and see what we can do from there. But I know there's a I know what I'll do. There's an easy way to do this. First thing, let's grab that. Okay, object center, snap to center. Because I build everything based on the object, so if I snap to center, that way it creates it exactly where I want it to be. And I'm going to put basically a slab of cement underneath this place so that it has some type of foundation underneath it. The coolest part would be if it matched these outside walls just a little bit bigger, and that way we can texture it, we can do something with it, but yet not affect the outside walls. So going in here, what I want to do is We're going to add a new object, a new mesh, and it's going to be a cylinder again. This particular one, we've got a couple different settings. We're going to go 102. See how big that gets. And not too bad, not too bad. Don't worry about the front. We're still going to do our little fun stuff with the front entrance. Depth is only going to be 2. That'll make it a nice... That kind of looks cool in the building. Anybody else appreciate that? That kind of looks kind of cool addition. We may have to do something like that. We'll see about what we want to do, but for now I'm going to lower this and make it part of the foundation. So we'll go -10, and we're almost there. It actually, whoops, didn't need to click that one. So -20, and let's see how much we overlapped. We have a little overlap. That's not a big deal. I kind of like a little overlap. I don't mind that. But what I will do is let's go a little bit farther. Let's go 21 and see what it does. Too far. 20.5. That's not too bad for the distance. Yeah, let's go the other way. 0.4. I like a little overlap. That way this becomes the flooring. We don't have to worry about other pieces in there, and it does what we want it to. The other thing is line of view, generate UVs, fill gap type, triangle fan. That will give us the one I want. Don't worry about UVs just yet. That kind of, is it close enough? I kind of think maybe we need it wide enough to have a walkway around the building. So we're going to make it just a little bit bigger than that. We're going to go 112. This will be partially under the ground, so it's actually not going to be as thick as it appears here. That's not bad. Okay, and we'll do something with the front end here, like I said, so that's not going to be part of the issue with this. I kind of like that. So let's go in here. We're going to object, apply, transformations, rotation and scale, object, apply, location, and that should get us right in the place and make it transform properly. Now we can move over a little bit. I'm going to get this piece down here. I'm going to click tab so we're editing it. Then I'm going to change to the face view, and I'm going to select these two. Rude, Y direction, and extrude, sorry, not a rude. And I'm going to bring that out because I want a big entryway in here. I'm going to bring it out we're going to say -12 for now. We'll figure it out if that's enough, but that's a good start. File save. And just like I did before, I can export this at any time. Click it into Babylon. Export the scene. As easy as media library. I could leave, club, edit, replace the file. Club Babylon, open. It's updated already. That's all it took. And F5. And what do we have? We have a ground, and I'm going to have to do a little bit more with that. I'm going to also I'm going to do some with the edges on that. But the other part is we're going to move it up so that it actually has a little bit of a step around it. Save object. And now we have a building and we have the base of it. So we can actually walk over here and step right up onto it. And notice my feet sink in. Okay. Next, I'm going to show you how we can make that a solid object. Okay. This one's selected. And in here, scroll down. First of all, it's pickable, which is fine because we can click it and select our whole object as part of it. The other part is check collisions. As long as we do that, then it comes out okay. We also can receive shadows. We'll worry about freeze load matrix afterwards and stuff, but this part we're going to leave it alone. We'll do that from my code side of things. Otherwise, you can't really move it around and you'll have trouble doing that stuff. Don't worry about auto launch animations or any of that stuff because I handle it all internally. When you tell me what animation you have, it'll automatically let you have more control over it on my side of things. Okay, because you can control the speed of the animation, the timing, everything. There's a lot of options I gave you. You can even have it do things on click and different stuff like that. Okay, so now this piece, the other thing we want to do is I'm going to grab all, click A for all, Shift E, and I'm going to sharpen every one of these edges. Notice how they become a bright pink. That's what I was looking for. And now they're sharp. Let me double check this one again. I know I did it, but I want to make sure they're as sharp as they can get. So we're going to see how sharp they got the color. Okay, that's what I wanted. The other thing is, was there anything wrong with the dome part? You know what? I'm going to turn off that so that I can kind of walk around without it. And I want to see, you know, actually I kind of like the dome the way it is. That is not bad. We have the dome, we have the raftering, and it looks good from out here. Notice how it's a lighter color out here to show the sun, but when you're on the inside, I used a darker color so that you're looking through it going outside. That was my little playing around with that. It came up with a plan of attack, and after trying a number of things, that's the way it looked the best. When the shadow, it was because I did the, when I did the, the glass, and I did it a tinted glass, when I only had the framing on the outside of the dome, you really, from the inside, it was very faint. But by doing it the way I did, what happened is now, from the inside of the dome, it's actually pretty clear, even when you look directly at it and with the different lighting that we're going to be dealing with. Okay, so next piece is next. Let's get some textures on here and see if we can't make a little bit of something with our building. We're getting there, we're getting there. Kind of looks like a big rounded top hat, huh? Okay, so the next piece, let's get back over here. We're gonna file, save that, and I'm gonna switch back out of that. Okay, this piece on the bottom, we're gonna go, first thing I wanna do is I'm gonna put my materials in the directory that I'm working with because I don't want a problem with, when I have the relative paths to the materials, it's going to need to be in the same directory when I put it on my server. So just so you know, we're going to be dealing with putting files directly into the folder, setting them as relative, and then putting them right into the sites. I want to give it some type of thing here. Let's see what we have. Oops, I got another folder. I'm going to look for some type of images. Content. This system doesn't have the same things I have on my other one. And I'm going to go with here. I've got a cement that I'm going to use on this particular part. We'll get my other thing afterwards, but here we have the materials section. Well, first of all, we have our textures. We don't have any textures selected. Notice we just have the ones for the dome. So I'm going to go ahead and click New. That creates us a material. We can name it whatever we want to call it. And in this case, I'm going to say floor. Cement slab. We'll just call it cement. That's about as plain as we can call it. The next thing is I'm going to add a texture to it. Notice there's none already selected. We click Add Texture. Image or movie is where we get that. And this is going to be Cement Dark. And I like to just know that it was JPG. You can call these anything you want, but the name of the file kind of works for me. And we will add Open Cement Dark, which happens to be in the same folder as that we are working in. Open Image. There are some options here that if you click this, it will open a file. Okay, that's a file. This one here, pack an image as embedded data into the blend file. I'm not going to do that because it makes the blend file bigger and I don't have as easy access if I ever want to change out that image or something. So I'm not going to do that piece, just so you know. The other thing is if that does get selected, all you have to do is go over here, say external data, and you can say unpack all into files, which will get your images right back where they need to be outside of the Babylon file. Otherwise, what happens is the Babylon file gets bigger. You can load them from there. Babylon will treat it that way, and it will pull the images. But by doing them separate, it actually downloads them not as part of the Babylon file. Keep in mind that Babylon, when it uses the texture or the image, what I read, and if this is right, is that to use it, Babylon has to fully unpack the file full size, and then it puts it on the thing. So even if you have a JPG and you've scaled it down so that the file size is smaller, it unpacks to its natural state before it applies it to a texture. By putting it as a separate file, it means it downloads it to the server separately before it does this unpacking. I don't know if, I think Blender leaves them in their unpacked state when they put the data in the Blender file or Babylon file. It's part of the exporter, so don't blame Blender, don't blame Babylon. It's just that that's the natural state that it uses when it loads them. But in this case, I guess in theory, in my own theory, is that by putting them in as separate files, what ends up happening is you can shrink them, they'll download faster to the client, and then they'll apply them as the Babylon object is created. So I think you can get a faster transfer rate. Somebody can confirm that for me sometime if they feel like they want to challenge it or prove it right one way or the other. That'd be great, because then we'd know. Okay, so I've selected this, and I've come in here and I've said cement and everything else, but I haven't actually applied it to the piece that I'm working with. So we're going to come in here. This is already selected, and where am I at? Oh, I know why. Because we're not telling it to show the material. And we also need to fix our lighting in this scene right here. So if I do this, diffuse color gives us the color of the item. Specular color is the sunspots. So I'm going to do diffuse color. I want to darken a little bit, which it's hard to see because we're looking at black now. And then these are the specular colors, which will shine the light off of it. So we will get some type of reflection off the ground if we choose. Emitting, if we don't emit anything, then you're not going to see this texture anywhere. So you need to emit something. There's the texture. Okay, here's the material look. We're not seeing the whole thing just yet. Give me a minute. The intensity's there, the emitting's there. No, we don't want that. Okay. Those should be the settings we want. Shadow, it casts. It can receive. transparent. Okay, that's interesting. Receive and cast shadows. We're good with that for this piece. It really doesn't have to cast a shadow that much because it's only a little lip on the ground anyway. The other part is this. No UVs are mapped. If I add a UV, there is our layout, our design, everything else. So by doing that, adding that, removing that, this one is, let's call this UV map. I'm going to put foundation UV map. So we have some type of name on it. Okay, let's take a look at that. File, save, and we're gonna sometimes by adding and removing the UV map we can actually get it to repaint it, and sometimes we'll get a better disbursement of the texture on it. But in this case we're going to say save, we're going to export it, and it's still going to give us our warning because we know that our warning was related to having this other object right here doesn't have any texture on it, so it knows that, we know that, and we'll take care of that shortly. Now when we update this, I'm going to go back here, Media Library, and 3D Object, Edit, Update or Replace. Now I want to update the club, and I'm going to update the manifest, and I'm going to update and add this texture. So now we have the texture in our site, and when I refresh this scene, if we walked far enough away from it and reloaded, it would also reload the scene with the new texture in place. So now I've chosen it to be kind of dark. But see, as you can tell, we do have the texture. We do have some control over it. We have what we told it to be. We have something there. I made it kind of dark so that it's not overly aggressive, for the cement. I can make it a different thing if we choose, but for now, that kind of works. And then the next part is to change the texture on the walls. There's a certain texture I want to use. Let me look around for it real quick. Okay. I'm just glancing. I'm looking for a particular texture. See if we can locate. No, it's not there either. Okay. Uploads. It's just not on this machine. Okay. Let me get it. I already gave it to all of you, and I don't have it in my own machine. Actually, that means it should be loaded in the site I'm looking at. Let's go look there. I don't know why. Let's see. That's on the server. I'm not on the server. That's why I'm not on the server. I gave it to all of you in the files, and I don't have it in my own set here. Let me get it real quick. Coming over here and we'll dump that on the desktop. Almost there. It's downloading a file. And I'm unzipping it. I don't need a copy from there. And let's see if it's in this directory, right where I expected it to be. And not the one I was looking for. I'm just looking for a different image here. You know, I'm going to throw a different image in there, and then we'll change it later if we choose to. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to dump a different image in here so that we have something for now, and we'll do something else with it later on, because this is not the image I plan to have long term. I'm going to give it a brick pattern, and we're going to come in here, we're going to set this, go back to here, we're going to say new, because this will be brick. We'll go to here, plus new, this will be brick, JPG, and then open file, there's our brick, open image, that's what it looks like here, and that's the other part, is I didn't set anything there on the other one. Okay, we'll have to double check that. This is what it's going to do. We want it to be pretty darn bright, but not perfect, and then spot on the other pieces. That's all good. And if I come in here and I give it a UV map, and we call this outer walls UV map, and if I come in here, okay, we're good on that stuff. Let's go back to here. Outer walls UV map. And then let's give it a little push. Okay, come on. I believe it's when we do this step. Okay, why isn't it doing it? Usually when I add the outer walls UV map on here, it kicks it out. We're also going to turn on check collisions and cast shadows. Oh, you got to give it some type of thing or it doesn't know what to do. The other piece is, okay, so there's a trick about this. This is not the pattern I want on here, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing it. But basically what you can do is when we're editing this particular piece, if I come in here, I can click any one of these faces, and I can say, for example, in fact, let's rotate them all for now. If I go to Mesh, Faces, Rotate UVs, there we go. Now we have them all going the other direction. We'll do them all for now, leave it that way, and just call it a day on that piece. We'll get into more details with that stuff later on, so I just wanted you to see that. Also, when you've rotated your UVs, click Save while you're still editing it. That's a little trick I learned. And then when you come out of it, that's a different save. There's two different save levels, and if you don't save your UVs, there's a good chance that when you come back to them, they will be rotated back. Yeah, it could be just me using it and what happened when I tried it, but that's the deal I ended up with. Okay, so now we have this, we have a texture on there, we have it going to the right place. Let's save that, file, export, Babylon, and it gave me the item. Let's go over here, media library, 3D objects, edit, and upload. We want to add that brick in here, and then we're going to re-upload the Babylon file, and we're going to upload, you know something, I swear I'm going to make it where you can upload multiple files, select them all at the same time, and just dump the whole thing. I'll do that. It's going to be a convenience we all love, and I just haven't done it yet. So apologize for not doing it yet, but that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Okay, and now, here we go. Ta-da! We now have a building with walls. Now notice you don't see the back wall because it's a one-sided wall. We are only looking at the front side of the building. That's kind of a cool design. I don't actually mind that too much. We're going to do some other stuff with that, but that's going to be, yeah, that's what we have so far. We'll play around with this building. We'll add some more stuff. We'll be doing all kinds of cool stuff with this. But I just want to thank you for joining me today, and it's been fun, but we'll dig back into code, and we'll keep on adding little pieces to this along the way. I kind of wanted to use it as an example of how easy it is to bring Blender objects into WalkTheWeb, and I think we've accomplished that. So I just want to thank you for joining me. And have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow.